Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the show, yo, yo. You might think it's amazing that I didn't laugh during that sweet little intro bit I just did. Well, I have a secret. This is my second time trying to record the intro. I definitely chuckled during the first time because that's fucking hilarious. Ugh, God. I get me. I just get me. And I think that is invaluable. And I really cherish the relationship I have with myself and all of the voices in my head. Except for one that when I am having an emotional reaction, and I tell this story in this podcast, but recently I was crying and I heard a voice that was noticing me crying. Like I'm having this, like I'm moved, emotionally moved, allowing myself to feel feelings. And then this voice in my head was like, wow, you're really like sad. Like you're just really crying right now. Like, whoa, you are feeling an emotion. And I'm like, who the fuck? So I honor all of the voices in my head except that one. Cause I'm not too sure about that one. I just feel like, what the fuck is your intention here with me? Are you here to mock me? Can you just leave me to my feelings? Welcome back to the show. This is Divine Dingo. My name is Ashley. I am your host. I'm your hoster because I don't really like being a hostess. So I'm the hoster of this podcast. Today on the podcast, I have the ever so charming Nimue Ecafiwik. Usually I practice saying the names of people before I come on here if I am unsure of myself, but I feel really confident that I pronounced their last name correctly, so let's just go with it. I love Nimue. I know I say this about every one of my guests, but why would I invite someone on that I don't love? That seems dumb. And sure, you might think, Ashley, be a little bit more professional and just say that you really like working with them. But if I'm honest, I love them. I love them a lot. And I did a reading swap with Nimue and fell in love with them within the first, I made some shitty joke, and the way that they laughed at it, I was like, are we meant to be? And so this podcast is super fun. It's goofy, and yet it's also filled with little bits of wisdom, mostly from Nimue. I was in a really weird, this last week, we recorded this Monday, the 22nd. This comes out Friday, the same week. And I've just had fucking chronic headaches. I'm just low energy. I don't fucking know what's going on, me. It's probably nothing. But anyways, for me, this podcast, when I was going back and editing it, why do I say editing it? Editing. When I went back and edited it. Wow, you guys listen to this podcast on your own. You choose to be here, and I'm so glad you are here. I love all of you. I don't like to keep it professional. I love all of you, even the ones that send me messages and I never message you back. Yeah, I still love you. I responded in the ether. Didn't you get my ether message? What was I saying? Nimue's great. We talk about a lot of fun things. And I think that that's all the intro that they need. They offer readings on their website, which I will link down in the show notes. Definitely fucking get one. I have had readings with, I've had readings with a lot of people in the community and the soberish community. And Nimue's reading was insightful, and I felt seen, and I felt like we could just casually talk, but then work together to come to realizations. It's like we were just mirroring each other. Maybe they were realizing something about the way that they process emotions or issues that come up in their life, whatever, through my realizations and gather. I don't fucking know, guys. It's amazing. I have a headache and I just drank a lot of pineapple juice. So I'm kind of like cracked out on sugar because the more you cut out of your diet, the more sensitive you become to all things. And you know how much chocolate I used to be able to eat? You know how many drugs I used to be able to do? And now I cannot drink more than a few sips of pineapple juice without getting fucked up. Like, is this what happens when you just like stop drinking and doing drugs and like smoking weed and smoking cigarettes and like eat a vegan lifestyle? You eat a vegan lifestyle? Like, I can't drink fucking pineapple juice, mate. Come on. I want to just have some pineapple juice and like fucking hang out. What am I going to do? Just drink water the rest of my goddamn life? And fucking tea? I mean, that sounds amazing, but like, can't somebody just have some fucking chocolate? How many accents was that? Leave your comments below. Can you do that in a podcast? You can't. Tell me how many accents I just did, and you will have told me how many accents I did. You get nothing in return. Okay. God, remember when I said I was going to try and keep these intros short? What? Why do I lie to you all when I love you so much? All right, guys. Here's Nimue. Welcome. Welcome, one and all. Nimue Ecafiwik. Did I say that right? Don't mess this up, Nimue.
Son of a bitch. Sorry.
God damn it. This
Off to a great start.
Wasn't it?
Absolutely a mistake.
Don't worry. I'm really good at editing out every time I burp or say something stupid, so I got your back.
There'll be like 5 minutes left of actual like presentable material in this podcast between you and me.
I love it. That's what we need. Just little snippets of wisdom. Well, let's start out with you telling me a story about a time where you feel like you communicated with an animal. And that can be anything from like when your childhood to now, and a wild animal, an animal you had a close relationship with, just anything. And it can be as woo as like you heard what they were saying in your mind, or you just like instinctually knew what they needed, whatever. Go for it.
I guess the most recent one would be I went to visit Sedona in December, and I was walking kind of like off the beaten path a little bit, and my guides were pressing me to continue down the beaten path, and I was like, there's nothing here. Like, I don't know what you guys are expecting me to see. And then I looked to my right, and there's this rock, like this big canyon, but on the rock face is like a face, like an actual face, like a person's face. I was like, oh, okay. And I got like the download. This is the spirit of the mountain, or the child of the mountain, I think is what it was. And then I hear this like extremely loud buzzing, like a brrr, and I look on my left and there's a hummingbird that just like dips down and is, I mean, right in front of my face, like just hovers right there. And it just felt very much like it was part of that energy. And I just felt that connection between my guides, the guide in that mountain, and just hummingbirds follow me around everywhere. So that was just like a really sacred moment. And to have one fly that close to me felt really important because they're not typically that bold, at least in my experience. So that would be the most recent one, I think.
Have you seen those videos of the people that spend like a month standing in the same position trying to get a hummingbird to land on their hand?
I literally just saw a TikTok with this dude who did that exact same thing. And it was like a second clip from every day for however long it took him. And then when the bird landed on his finger, he doesn't move, like he's completely motionless, but you can just see his eyes like filling up with tears of happiness. Oh. It's so precious.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I think the only videos I've seen of people doing that have been like, they look like big burly dudes and they're just like set up every day. They're just like, I'm going to get a hummingbird and to land on my finger. And that also speaks to your experience too, to just have one come so close to you. And you're right. They really are not that bold. And that's why it's so exciting when you do see a hummingbird. Like, it's an honor.
Definitely. And the other story that makes me think of too is for a long time, dragonflies chased me everywhere to the point where they would like land on me and like have like what I consider to be a conversation. I am a sane person. Let your viewers know I am sane. But I was at like Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, and I was just chilling on like a floaty ring or something, just being outside, and this blue dragonfly comes and lands on me and just stares me dead in the eyes. I mean, it was like it knew. I was like, have we met? Like, I'm sorry if I forgot your name. I don't remember my mom's name. And so that used to happen too. Like they would just chase me around. I thought that was really fun.
Those are like two signs of, I guess for me, when I think of fae and like woodland creatures, I'm thinking of like bugs, and not like, fairies with the bug wings. I'm not thinking of like little Tinkerbells and stuff, but when I think about fae, I always imagine it's like a bug landing on me and talking to me, or like a bird or something. Those are like the
Mm-hmm.
two things that stick out to me the most.
I can sense that too. And like it's funny because I think some of the Fae, at least especially the ones that are kind of like channeled by people like Brian Froud, I don't think they mind being seen with that energy. It's more like as long as you recognize that the wings are not to make them cute. It's like a dragonfly's wings, I think they're the most maneuverable animal in the animal kingdom. Wing like flight wise, like I guess their wings are shaped like helicopters, so they can move like omnidirectionally um, at any point. So if I think I don't know, I think the whole Fae concept with the wings, it's gotten really kind of cuted down, which I don't think the Fae appreciate. But when you think of it as far as like, okay, if they've got dragonfly wings, that means this energy is like super maneuverable, probably an expert, like chaser, can get out of any situation, that kind of thing.
You said that was butterfly wings that can do that?
Dragonfly wings.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, butterflies just act like they're drunk all the time. I don't know. Like have you ever seen one just like after like having a day? Like it's I just somebody needs to do like a voiceover that's like funnier than me of like just one of those white garden butterflies after they've had their fill of just like it's like they barely know what they're doing.
I love when people do voiceovers for animals. When I was growing up, my mom and I, that was like what we used to do for entertainment with our animals, is we would just give them inner monologues and then just narrate what they were doing. It was the best thing to me. And then, we all have stumbled across Snoop Dogg narrating Planet Earth, and that is, I think, my favorite video on the internet.
I'm going to rewatch it as soon as we're done here. I also love the BBC one of the like the daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. Like I will still like that the Alan, like I can't. I came close to like having some kind of seizure the first time I watched that video.
Simple, simple, beautiful shit. Well, it's funny that you were like, that you just said, let your listeners know that I'm sane, because then we started talking about wings, and I've been having like this back pain. And I remembered that I did a meditation slash like activation with Amy Spicer. It was like a group one around, I think it was the day of the conjunction, the Great Conjunction. And part of like the guided meditation that Amy took us through was it that one? No. I don't know. It was, I did two with her recently. One or the other. It was both like a guided meditation, but it was basically, one of them was to like help us get our wings, like if we were from the angelic realm or something. And I didn't realize that was the intention, I think, until we were like already in it, and I was like, all right, fuck it, let's see if I got some wings. I mean, I feel like I've been an animal in all my past lives, so, or at least most of them, so like why not? And then I like actually felt both like, your classic feathery giant angel wings, but then I also felt like dragon wings. I felt both.
Ooh.
And it's so funny, you're like, let them know that I'm sane. And I'm like, anyways, I had back pain today, and I just imagined my wings just like flopping around a little bit back there, and the back pain went away. So literally just like let them flap. Literally just let them flap and fly, and then the back pain just went away. So
That's fucking great. And I like that you have like shapeshifty wings. Like you've got like you said feathery wings, but also freaking dragon wings.
mhm.
I love that. Are they simultaneous? Like, do they exist at the same time, or do you kind of shift in between both?
Totally shapeshifty. Like I like so resonate with being a shapeshifter. I love that. I love that so much. I remember when I first got into the soberish community, like I was hearing like people kind of like had like a bad taste in their mouth over shapeshifters. And I get it because it's like if I guess if you're looking at it in like a not woo sense, if somebody's a shapeshifter, they're unpredictable or like maybe they're not stable or things like that. But I feel like I'm unpredictable and I'm like unstable, but not in like a way that I would like harm anyone intentionally. You know, I think that it's like maybe the lighter side or like the I don't know, I'm just like the class clown. So that's why I'm unpredictable, you know? And I'm unstable because like I'm one paycheck away from like getting kicked out of my apartment. Like, you know, that fun stuff like that.
That's a yeah. I Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. This is gonna happen a lot. This is gonna happen a lot.
Oh,
This is what you
cool.
have that
I am
editing thing for.
surprised that I have not lost my train of thought 5 times
Oh
already.
boy. I was gonna talk about shapeshifting stuff. It's and I like that you kind of lean into talking about being a clown also within that energy, because that energy is supposed to remind us that if things stay the same for too long, it gets very stagnant. Like stagnation is death. So I feel like shapeshifting energy is like particularly sacred because it's a reminder, and sometimes like a really fun one or even entertaining one, depending on like which direction you take with it, of the impermanence of everything and how beautiful that is. And also kind of like can call us in and be like, all right, well, maybe we should like, instead of trying to anchor the moment as much, just like respect the moment, honor the moment, say thank you to the moment, instead of trying to capture it and put it in something it won't stay contained in. So that might be part of the reason folks, at least that are not connected to, because I don't want to speak for anybody else's tradition, um, but that are concerned with like shape shifting as like oh, I can't trust that. It's probably, maybe it's because they can't trust just like that things aren't permanent, that things, I don't know, maybe they have a hard time with change is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I like that. Like are resistant to a fleeting moment, essentially.
Yeah. And like again, I
Yeah.
don't want to co-opt anyone else's culture there, because I know that like skin changers, for example, is it skin changers or skin walkers? Now I feel like even more ignorant than I usually do.
I know Skin Changers is from The Hobbit when Gandalf
Okay.
goes, he's a skin changer.
Okay, I think I'm talking about the second one, where it's like something like a Wendigo. There are indigenous traditions that look at that kind of stuff. I think they're called Skinwalker Ranch. There's like an
Yep.
actual place where this happens. It's like definitely not something you want to fuck with, but like, I don't know, respect. I think that stuff is, and especially, I bet you have a stronger connection to that kind of energy having lived as animals in a past life, because I feel like that's just how, I don't know, I feel like you need that energy to do that, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. I think that when I was giving you your animal communication reading, I think I told you that when I first started going to the animal realm, I would meet my like my guide that would take me through the portal, and it was always my bear guide, my spirit guide. And we would just both shapeshift together. Like we would start out like they would be a bear and they would be walking in, and I would just be, you know, my human form, and then we would maybe jump off of a cliff and we would both turn into animals that fly, and then we would go through a waterfall, and then we'd go down into the river and we'd turn into fish. And so like my first moments tapping into the animal realm and communicating with animal spirits was always initiated with shapeshifting. And I think that that was, I mean, that I think that like also around that time was when I met people that like didn't like the concept of shapeshifting because of like something, you know. And so I was like, oh, is shapeshifting bad? You know, it was still when I was, the more vulnerable I am, or the more vulnerable I feel, the more my instinct is to look outside of myself for somebody to tell me what I am or what is good and what is
Mm-hmm.
bad. And so in that moment, I was like feeling vulnerable, and I was like, oh, I guess shapeshifting is bad. But no, I love it, and it's like a synchronicity of mine. When I interviewed my friend Kate Ray about Faye. And I love that that rhymes. I'm always like, my friend Kate Ray from the UK talks about Faye. Um, but shapeshifting is like a huge, it's like Faye spirits will shapeshift constantly from what Kate was telling me. And so there's just so many different things that I love about it. And I am, and then also in human design, I have an open heart center, which means that I am basically like malleable. Like I can like adapt to whatever group of people that I'm around to fit that group of people. I also can maintain myself and who I am, but I'm just like easygoing and malleable. So I'm like shape shifting. It's just like a part of who I am. So that's my rant about how shape shifting is cool.
It's super cool. And I think it's also, I think it's a feature of the higher dimensional realm because like when I'm doing readings for, calling in people's guides, they'll show themselves to me how I can best see them. Like I had one guide who my client was really familiar with, but the way that they showed themselves to me, like in my mind's eye, they had these giant horns that were coming out the front of their head. And my guide had never seen that before. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's just so I see that they are not an earth elemental, but like horns to me like have to do with earth connection and feeling very, very strong in that earth connection. So they shapeshift to communicate what they need to communicate to us. So I again, I think it's more of a feature when it comes to that kind of energy, but that's only my experience. So I'd be interested to know what that's like for other people who channel and do that kind of work.
You said that that's when you're working with people's guides, but does that also happen when you are channeling just higher dimensional beings in general? Like they will shapeshift to you kind of, is that like the norm for you, I guess?
I think so. Like the energy signature stays the same. And by energy signature, I guess I just mean how they feel kind of vibrationally in my body. Um, and interesting, like when I'm channeling, like if I'm channeling with one of the galactic folks that I've been hanging out with, it's more or less, although this might change, an energy, like it's like they're a group energy. So I don't often see them like as individuals. Like people will talk about seeing the Pleiadians as these like beautiful Nordic blonde hair, blue eyes supermodels. I have never experienced a being like that before. I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
experienced beautiful beings that like I'm like, oh, like aesthetically you are pleasing, but I feel them more than I see them. And so the feeling will stay similar, but sometimes visually, I guess that will definitely, depending on what they want to communicate with me, that can shift.
Do you ever kind of bump up with your logical processing mind with what you're seeing and then like feel seeing or feeling if you're like using your intuition or your like your clairs or your abilities whatever and your logical mind like comes in somehow you invite it in and then all of a sudden you're like doubting everything? Does that how often does that happen for you if at all?
It not as much anymore, but that's mostly because I've been reading cards and channeling for a long, long time. Um, like since I was a kid. And it does occasionally, like I'll tell you when it does happen. If I'm reading for somebody who is like dead silent on the other end, like they don't respond to anything I'm saying, or and that's like it's not fair for me to expect anybody to respond a certain way on a phone call. Like people are going to disseminate information as they need to, but if someone's dead silent and I can't get a read on them, being like, "Oh shit, did I just say?" So I'll be like, "Oh my god!" Like there will be that stomach dropping moment of panic, and then I just have to remind myself the cards don't lie, my guides don't lie, and we'll just check in and just roll with it. It's definitely like a lesson in letting go, um, and a lesson in like just trusting the self. But it's not without its like occasional. I don't know. I guess I've just been doing it for so long at this point that it doesn't hit me the way I guess maybe it did when I was younger. Do you experience that with your readings? Because your reading that you gave for me was one. It was just complete fire. It was so good.
Yeah, I think that I doubt myself the most because I spend like 30 minutes before each reading before I get on the phone. And then like sometimes like it's like I'll get something and then I just let it be what it is presented to me. I'm like, okay, got it. And I'll like write down exactly and I won't judge it. But then it's like I think the more specific I get with my readings, the more I question it. But also I was just hiking the other day and I was, talking to the trees as one does. And I could like I was seeing energy because I'm not used to seeing energy visually. I can feel it. I don't hear it. It's all I'm just like feeling everything. So when I start to see it, I get really excited and then it goes away really quick because I start paying too much attention to it or something. but in that moment, I like heard my guide say something like, well, when you invite your logical mind in, you're missing something, like you're losing it, you know? And I almost felt like sometimes like my energy can be like clingy. It's like if something intuitive happens, like I feel like I'll cling to it, and then I invite my mind in. I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And then it just like disintegrates. And I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing until this like 2 days ago. I was like, oh shit, I'm like taking two things that like aren't going to work well together to help one or the other, and I'm trying to bring them together to like make this whole other thing, but that's not how it works. So it's just like, I think when I was watching your video when you were just channeling the Lyrans today, when I was watching that, I was just thinking, I was like, if I was getting some of this shit, I would be like doubting it, you know? I'd be like, but then again, and I'm kind of rambling right now, but then again, there are times when I'm in a reading where I just start telling people things and I'm not doubting it at all. And I just like, and then I get off the phone with them and they'll be like, oh my God, you said this to me and you said that to me. And I absolutely don't remember it, but it resonated with them, and that's what counts. So I feel like in that moment, like something just comes over me and I just say what they need to hear. And I don't know. So then in those moments, I don't doubt myself. So yeah, I mean, it comes and goes with me, to be honest.
Yeah, I do notice it happens with me more when I'm practicing automatic writing, believe it or not, which is funny because
Ooh.
like it's not for anybody other than me. It's not like I'm waiting for somebody to respond. I just tend to, my rational mind will jump in as soon as my pen hits the page and be like, well, was that what you really wanted to say? Is that actually what they were saying? Like, so that in that element, I've had to really like let go because I think um like there was a point in my life where I thought I was going to be a writer, so I tend to be very controlling about like how I write stuff down. So I have to put my ego aside and stop trying to like control the information coming out during a channeling session, both writing and otherwise. And that requires a lot of trust too, that you know who you're channeling with has got your back, which I believe your guides have your back. um but it's an exercise in trust. Like it is a game where trust is kind of like the end goal, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and definitely there have been moments where I've, especially with the fucking Lyrans, they come on strong. Like so, sometimes these messages are not the way that I would deliver them. And I think that's where sometimes I get really stuck is if like this is coming from an energy outside of myself, like I have to still like they said something about, oh my gosh, okay, you can edit this out if you think this isn't going to be cool for people to listen to, but we were talking who the fuck was I talking to? I think it was the Syrians about diet and like food and like how to get our bodies fixed. And they straight up said, and I did not say this in the chat at the time because I didn't want to freak anybody out, but they were like, all meat is cancerous. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, you can't just leave me with that. You can't just like, I can't. And I have since clarified with them that they mean specifically like mass produced shit, like, unless you're getting it very, what's the word, just conscientiously sourced, it's they were like, we're not going to backpedal what we said what we said. And so I have to then learn how do I get that message across without like freaking a bunch of people out, because clearly it's what they want me to say. Does that make sense? It's just and the
Yeah.
Lyrans can be a little rude if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that not only um I feel like you're feeling resistance for not wanting to freak people out, but also I think that when you say something that is that like absolute and that bold about meat, people like turn off. Like they don't want
Yeah.
to. And I've had a lot of thoughts about like how do I go about actually wanting to like share information about animal agriculture and about how like meat affects our bodies and things like that without um without just having people totally shut down. And I think that what has happened is that people are just so actually passionate about this that they just let their emotion completely take over, and then they end up like grabbing a person that like eats meat and dairy and doesn't give a fuck by the shoulders, just like shaking them and being like, you're a murderer, meat's bad for you. And then of course nobody wants, I mean, even when people are telling me like rational, beautiful shit, if they're not telling me in a loving way or in a time that I have the space for it, or if I'm like sensitive about it, I'm not going to hear it. So, yeah, I mean, I am the vegan and animal rights activist is happy to hear that the higher dimensional beings are saying this. But yeah, I mean, I think it would freak people out. But also, like, I guess I'll say, and maybe like you could, if you did want to come out and like tell people or whatever. I mean, I'll leave this in the podcast so we can tell people this way. But when I've channeled the animal realm, I have, I don't know if I actually asked them or if they were just giving me information, but they don't want us, or they understand that us eating meat is a part of life, and that's a part of their life and a part of their experience. There's no reverence in the way that we consume meat. There's no respect, there's no love, there's no and all of the things. I don't know, I can't think of another word. All of the good things. So they understand that we're going to eat them, but it's gotten way out of hand. And so, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think I posted something on my story on Instagram the other day that was just like about how fucked up the animal agriculture is. And then right afterwards, I was like, yo, this shit's hard to see. But if you want to eat meat, that's cool. That's great. But like, if you have a local farm, get it from them, because the cow like has a normal life. It like lives in a barn. It has free range. It has people that like talk to it every day and like love it to a certain degree, and then it dies, and so it's like, if we're going to eat meat, we have to do it more responsibly. So yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm not going to be a preachy vegan. And then it's like, well, I mean, call it what you fucking will. I think that these things are important to talk about. And I'm really glad you said, was it the Lyrans that said this or the Syrians?
This, I think, was actually the Syrians that said this. I had them both on the line at the time. But I'm pretty sure it was them, because it
Doing
was
a three-way call.
Yeah. And I actually this week, so I do these channelings more regularly on my Patreon, and yesterday, I do them on Sundays. I actually had a 4-way call. I was getting busy. It was a conference call because I tapped into a vegan guide for the first time, I think, like I mentioned. So they all kind of drop in as like, I have to have the space to let them drop in, because especially usually when I make first contact with any of these energies, it's intense for me. I think part of the reason I was like out of commission for the past 3 weeks had to do with the fact that I started channeling some beings that are just of a very, very high vibration. And like the Syrians in particular, like will come through my heart space and just make me start crying, because I asked them like, why do you do this to me? Like, I'm on, like, people can see me, I'm ugly when I cry. And they were like, you think we're going to let you get away with telling people this without actually feeling it? I was like, God damn it. So anyway, to go back a little bit, I had an experience eating a goat this one time at Burning Man. Great segue into the story. It's relevant, I swear to God. So we had a campmate who worked on a farm, and he brought this goat, like very nicely packaged, dry ice, to the playa, that he slaughtered himself. And he told us about the entire process. Like, he told us about the goats. I don't remember the goat's name, which I feel kind of bad about now, but the goat had a name, the goat had a life, the goat had a history. And then the killing of the goat was blessed. Like, he blessed the whole situation. It was made very, very sacred. He explained to the goat where the goat was going to go, and the goat was going to go feed a bunch of dusty, fucking crazy hippies out in the desert. And we cooked it over a spit. Like, we had the entire carcass laid out and cooking. And so you could see it. There was nothing spared. You don't get it already in a sandwich. It's not already like in a sausage. Like, you actually see what the meat is coming from, what part of the body. And it was the most, I'll never forget it. Like, I'll never forget what it tasted like. I don't typically like goat or lamb, like, outside of this experience. It's just flavor wise never done it for me. And this was a sacred event. Like, me and my friend we would just have like, and hopefully this isn't freaking you out because you're a vegan and I'm talking about eating a slaughtered goat. So checking in, just making sure you're doing okay.
No, I love it. I love it. I love the story.
But we specifically ate like a piece of like the fat, because that was where so much of like the goods on the playa, you're barely eating. You're eating pickles and fucking, I don't know, margaritas and a bunch of beef jerky for like a week or 2 weeks. That's about it. And a lot of ecstasy. And so it's not the most nutritious space to be. But every bite we took of this goat felt like it was healing something almost ancestral in us. So I agree with what you're saying. I think that I believe that the Syrians would have definitely been like, yes, eat the goat when they saw the context. It's more just that we don't see what we're eating. We're completely detached from
Mhm.
what we eat, almost period. It's a problem. But yeah, it was highly recommend getting locally sourced meats if that's your thing.
Yeah, I think that what bothers me when people talk about meat is like when they're like, oh, I know that animals suffer, but like, oh, I just love a cheeseburger. I'm like, ew,
Oh
fuck off. Like, you just are gross to me. Like, why are you gonna? So that, but I no, that was a beautiful story, and I think that like the word purpose was coming to mind when you were talking, and when we eat our meat, and that goat's life had purpose when it was living and then purpose in its death. And I think that there is something so beautiful about that. And unfortunately, a lot of times, not only are we animals are like mass produced nowadays, they're tortured their entire lives, but then we end up wasting a lot of it. So like there's a lot of suffering and pain and death that is for nothing. And I think that like the energy, I mean, obviously suffering in the planet in general, whether it's like humans, the environment, or animals, is making all of the energy out of whack and out of balance. But like if we're speaking specifically about animals, it is just like they're sacrificing their joy, their life, their experiences for our palate, and then we waste a lot of it. So it's just like, and there's just like no respect in it anymore. Yeah. And so I don't know. I think that uh I don't know. I'm like, I
no,
wanted to talk. I'm like, go ahead.
oh no, it's just to kind of not that your listeners probably want to hear any of this because I do eat meat. Like I'm O positive, and I guess that particular blood type, like we just do better with animal protein. Like I've gone for
Mhm.
stretches without eating meat, and I always feel a little bit more energized. I don't eat a lot, but like I have like a chicken sausage or something for breakfast, and that's close to it. But um, oh no, it happened again. Oh, there goes my train of thought. Okay, that's number two. I'm keeping track this time. Son of a bitch. Okay, wait, no,
Yeah, I'm gonna keep
what I
a
was gonna
tally.
say was so good, and now it's gone. Okay, it'll come back to me.
Okay.
It's fine. Oh, I
Well,
remember. I remember. Okay, yay. That was okay. I just needed to be able to interrupt you with it. That's fine. Um, you think about how these animals are treated before they're slaughtered. Okay, if they're in one of these just mass produced, they're like concentration camps. Like I don't know how to look at them any other way. That all those stress hormones, like all of the things and emotions that these animals are having go into what you're eating. Like this is true for humans too. Like our emotions live in our body. So it's another this was honestly like more of a kick in the ass for me to start eating like free range chicken and just like more lovingly cared for meat when I can, because you're eating those stress hormones, you're eating everything that animal went through, that history is going into you. So it's just something to be mindful of. You know what I mean? Like, do you want that fear, do you want that anxiety and that tension to be what's sustaining you? And then you look at our culture where we're all freaked out all the time. I don't know, it's just something I think about from time to time.
yeah. Yeah, totally. I love hearing from people that do better when they eat meat and then are conscious about it. Like I have a friend who he bought like a whole cow. Like he literally bought like the meat of an entire cow and like ate off of it for like however long it takes a family to eat an entire cow. But it was like he bought it like from a person that he knew on a farm, and like and it's like he I don't know, like the farmer got something out of it, the cow died to sustain another life. And yeah, I just like, I fully respect when people eat meat and are conscious about it. And like I also had a friend who was vegan that I lived with for 2 years, and she was like an environmental vegan, and she made sure to remind me when I would get like really upset about animal agriculture and the torture and whatever, all the sadness involved with it, that eating vegan is a privilege, and being mindful about what you eat in general is a privilege. And so I also think that it's important to not like force yourself into something if you do, like out of guilt. And I think that a lot of people will be like, oh, I feel so guilty about this or that. And it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place with this, but it also does really bother me when people are like, "Oh my God, I love animals." Like I think I said something like, "Oh, one of my coworkers said, I can't believe that you don't eat cheese. Like it's so good." And I said, "Well, yeah, I love cheese, but I just love animals more." And she's like, "Well,
Hmm.
I love animals too." And then she's like eats whatever fucking brand of cheese and whatever fucking brand of meat. And I'm like, "Okay, well, don't insult me." You don't like, it's I don't know. I mean,
What a
like I
dick. Like,
said,
is she doing that in front of you? Like, I like animals too. And then, like, without blinking, just shoves a piece of cheese into her mouth and, like, chews with her mouth open so you understand that she loves animals. Like, that's the kind of vibe I'm
yeah.
getting from this person.
Yeah, you're probably correct. Just from a young age, it was just never my mom always raised me to put myself in other people's shoes. And so like that almost backfired on me to a point where like I didn't know how to put myself first in any situation.
Hmm.
But I digress. This I'm all over the place. The pasta that I just had was really good, and then my cheeks are really hot. But I'm gonna make a really, really good point. Everybody, put your seatbelts on. This podcast is gonna get good. 30 minutes in. Um, I just like couldn't like cheese always kind of made me feel like shit. But then once I realized that in my mind, I was like, I just want to eat. I love like white queso dip. Like, oh my God, that is my favorite fucking type of cheese in existence. I would eat it all the time, multiple times a week. But then once I started becoming more conscious and I was just actually, once you see the videos, that PETA puts
Mm.
out or whoever puts out, it doesn't matter who puts out the fucking videos, it's all the same. Once you see the videos of how they treat the animals, like for me, there was no going back. I was like, oh my God, like not only does the cheese make me feel like shit, when I eat it, I have like 5 minutes of satisfaction while it's in my mouth. And then like, and an animal had to suffer its whole life for this
Mm.
moment. It just like, it didn't add up. And like, I haven't eaten meat in like 11 years. I don't actually know because it's been so long if I would do better with meat. I honestly love like green vegetables. I don't actually know what my blood type is either, but I think I'm just one of those people that is able to be vegan and like do well with it. So I mean, I'm lucky in that stance. And I also think like the whole world doesn't need to be vegan to make a difference. So I don't know,
But
you
I
know.
think the whole world does need to be more conscious about it. And that's something that I wanted to comment on when you were talking about how eating vegan is a privilege and getting to decide to eat free range meat is a privilege. That's fucking true. What everybody can do though is bless their food. So if you
Ooh.
go out and you get like Taco Bell or you're getting a chicken parm and you don't know where the fucking meat's from, you can I know this sounds like I said, I'm sane. You can look at the sandwich and just say to talk to the sandwich and be like, yo, thank you. Like, thank you so fucking much. Just offer some respect, offer some dignity for whatever that animal had to go through for you to have, however many minutes of pleasure and like, feed yourself. Anyone can do that with any kind of food. So it's just, and I'm saying that out loud. Like I fucking do it all the time. I need to be more mindful, even with plants. Like it's even, I'm speaking of leafy greens. It's really funny you brought that up because as I was starting to channel with like my gut, so my serious Syrian guides are Rami and Matthias, and I was asking them like, what do I do health wise to be able to channel you guys better, like because my vibration needs to meet yours or whatever, and like all I keep seeing in my mind's eye is leafy fucking greens. I hate leafy fucking greens. I hate. I can't. Ugh, like, and I don't know when this happened to me because I used to eat very, very healthy, but I've been forcing myself to like cook fucking kale, and I fucking hate kale. I'm doing this because I know I need. Ugh. Anyway, sorry, leafy greens. I'm
I could just
triggered.
straight up, and I have just straight up just eaten kale like a fucking rabbit. Like I just like it so. I love like they give me power. Like I just feel so fucking on top of the world. If you give me raw fruits and vegetables, I can like lift a car over my head. Like I'm just like fucking Popeye. I don't know.
It's
Like it's so
literally.
wild. And as the healthier that I get, or like quote healthier, because that I think that that word can mean many things to many different people. But like the more that I change my diet, the less that I am able to just eat like even the simplest things. Like I get like vegan cheese, which honestly doesn't, I mean, I get like expensive, nice, organic, great, whatever, blah, 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 vegan cheese. And just the fact that it's processed, my body is like, bitch, stop eating processed food. And I'm like, but this is like good processed food. And it's like, there's no such thing as good processed food. Like, I feel like I'm gluten-free, I'm vegan, I'm not eating like processed sugar. I feel like every time I take one thing out of my diet, my body's like, why don't you just keep on taking things out? And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to eat? Literally, am I going to be a raw vegan? Because that sounds exhausting. Like, and then, you know, you try to go on a date with somebody and they're like, you want to go get a beer? And I'm like, oh, I don't drink. They're like, you want to go get food? I'm like, yeah, I'm just vegan, gluten-free, and sugar-free. But my personality is great and I'm totally not crazy. And I don't think that I can talk to dead people and animals. Like, what? That's so
And I
weird.
totally don't have at least 2 sets of wings at any given time.
Yeah.
I totally don't.
I'm not like totally a shapeshifter. I mean, like, relax. I'm
No
just
big
like
deal.
the worst dinner date, but the conversation would be interesting.
Which is what you're going out for, hopefully. And I'm getting to that point too. Like, I don't drink. I quit drinking about 3.5 years ago. Best decision I've ever made in my entire life. Because for me at that point, alcohol was just pure poison. It was just awful. And like certain kinds of meat, like I definitely am leaning less away from beef these days. Like, I don't know. It's strange. Like, I think eventually all meat is going to get factored out. But I don't know. I keep seeing you like, I can't get the image of you out of my head. Like just lifting a car up with one hand with like a bunch of kale and just like aggressively biting off a chunk and just throwing that car at someone who
With
deserves
like
it. And it's bringing me so
green
much joy.
liquid flowing down my cheeks and my neck. Like, ah.
It's like the
But
kale Hulk.
yeah, exactly. That is, one can only dream. But it is, I like how you said that about like vegetables, too, like having some like reverence. We're essentially like, you're basically saying like pray before you eat, which, I wholeheartedly agree with, but let's not pray to the white man in the sky that hates gay people. Let's pray
No,
to our food.
that dude's a
Like,
fucking fascist. He deserves. Okay, this is a huge, sudden off
yeah,
ramp
let's
into conversation.
pivot.
So okay, just a couple months ago, anybody who's friends with me is like really annoyed hearing me talk about this. I discovered TikTok. I discovered it much later than everybody else did. So, I built up enough of a following. You have to give a certain number of followers before you can go live and do TikTok live. So I go on TikTok live. I think this is my second time, and the subject of religion comes on, and without thinking of any kind of consequence whatsoever, started talking about the Judeo-Christian God as a fascist and as somebody who's got small dick energy and is clearly insecure about it. And I got, my live just got cut off. Like the feed just ended and they put me in TikTok jail. And they were like, that goes against community guidelines. They didn't specifically say that's what it was about, but that was really the only thing I can think of that would have gotten somebody really pissed off. Because that God is a fucking whiny little fascist prick. Like, I can't, anyway. So yeah, do not pray. He does not deserve it. I
No.
actually heard on the TikTok that there's speculation. I don't know if I believe this, but that God is in jail, in higher dimensional prison. And he's being kept there
Wow.
by the angels or some shit. This is wild. I don't know if you've heard about this at all.
No.
Okay, get you on TikTok and get into it because I mean, maybe don't though, because it's an addictive, horrible, it plays on your dopamine receptors like there's no tomorrow. So
Yeah, I
maybe
don't know.
don't.
I have a like really dicey relationship with social media. Like there's some Instagram accounts that I follow that are literally just the funniest fucking things. Like there's an account called Openly Gay Animals on Instagram and
Stop it.
I mean, it's
Oh
maybe
my
not
God.
exactly what you think. Like, while there are some, like, it's just basically hilarious memes and also like animals being adorable. It's a nice balance of both, but it's like a page that I love and it makes me laugh so much. And the other day, I just kind of like gave myself permission to go on there and just like look at all the things and laugh. And still, spending time on Instagram on a page that I like and energy that I like, I could feel like after 5 minutes, I felt gross and I felt drained and I felt like, so I really do feel like it's my life can be similar to an experience of the social dilemma. I think it was what it's called, where you have people behind you, except like behind the curtain controlling what you see. Like, yeah, but also I feel like those people are siphoning off my energy, just like, oh, she thinks this is so funny. Like, go, 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 go. Let's just eat
Yeah.
her alive. Yeah.
I think that what do they call those? Like egregores? They're kind of like thought
Yes.
forms that turn into monsters that basically suck all your energy away. Like I wish I was a creative enough artist to draw what I think the Facebook egregore looks like because there's clearly one for fucking Facebook. That site, I can barely be on Facebook anymore, and I go on Instagram because I don't know. My guides are really specific about what platforms they want me to be on with this shit. And it's because none of them are safe, first of all. And the more I think intuitives start becoming more intuitive, and especially like with you, the more you're starting to channel, you're eating super clean, you're gonna start to be really sensitive to those vibes and be like, oh, this isn't right. Like something's not okay here. Um,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, and it's funny because Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same people, but like my guides do not want me going on Facebook lives like ever again. Like every time I've tried in the past like couple months, something has gone out of its way to make it impossible for me to feel like comfortable on there.
Hmm.
Um, TikTok lives they're a little wary about too. It's sketchy for sure. So I think it's good that you have like an intuitive sense about how unhealthy those platforms are.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective. I don't really know how to segue into this, but I want to talk to you about okay, first I have because when I was watching your channeling the Lyrans, you were talking about like space cats. And I think I've only ever heard I think I heard Jessa talk about like the DMT waiting room and how she said she saw a bunch of cats. And then I have only ever heard her say that when anytime anybody talks about DMT, they're just like, "Oh yeah, man, I just blasted off," and I was like through a portal in like another world. And while all of that is cool, and I'm only mocking it because I'm jealous that I haven't had that experience, the first time I did DMT, I went to this world. It wasn't like a room, it was this other realm, and it was just like this crazy like all these crazy colored backgrounds, and it was literally just cat faces like sticking their tongues out, like kind of like when somebody does like a rock on, and they do like the metal fingers and their tongue out. It had that yes, it had that look to it. And then they were on like conveyor belts just getting like mass produced and like floating around, but it was literally just cat faces. And when you were talking about um space cats, that's what I saw in my mind. It was like that. And then just to talk about like the DMT waiting room was just like a bunch of cats. I'm like, that was my experience.
That's fucking wild. I haven't heard her talk about that, but that's fucking wild. I didn't know they were cats until somebody like there were a bunch of people in the chat being like, "Oh, are these the kitties?" I'm like, "They're kit," because they didn't show themselves to me like that. But I guess people have described people have described seeing them as like thundercats. Like they're like thundercats was clearly channeled by somebody who had a connection to the Lyrans. So I don't find it surprising for you because you're an animal communicator, so you probably have like a direct line to that kind of vibe anyway. And it might be why they want to talk to you, but did they say anything? Like did they just go like blah fucking
Yeah, they were just going like like
rock
that,
on?
and I was like, what the fuck is this? But I also think like I didn't smoke enough to like blast off, but I think that they were just trying to show me like I don't fucking know. I was like 19. It was so long ago. I just remember like I went over to my friend's house and they like had all eaten acid, and then I was like, "Oh man, I didn't know you guys were all gonna eat acid." And then my friend was like, "We've got some DMT in the fridge. You want to do that?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." I didn't do it like I'd be more interested in doing it now when people are like, "Oh, you like do a detox for a week and you go into all this meditation and then you do the DMT." For me, most of my like drug experiences were just like somebody just handed me a thing and I put it in my mouth and then I had an experience. So, yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So with all of the I mean, because just from me talking to you like off the mic, just in our conversations, and then like hearing your info god damn it, Ashley, just talk. It's really hard sometimes. Watching your like Instagram live videos about like the things that you channel, I was wondering if you ever like got information about animals beyond how like meat is bad essentially.
I haven't asked, but I could. That's something I could bring up the next time they drop around. Is there anything like in particular you're thinking about?
No, I'm just like curious. I'd like to ask different people that like channel information and higher dimensional beings and like because I guess I haven't spent too much time doing it. When I go to the animal realm, I travel down through like roots, like I'm journeying to the animal realm. So, and I mean, I have met light beings from star systems that are like pretending to be animals, and I have also met like beings from the underworld that are animals, you know. But I guess
Hmm.
I haven't myself tried to channel or communicate with like a being like a Syrian or a Lyran or Pleiadian or anything like that, and I just like would be curious to know what they have to say about the animal collective and like what their relationship is. And so I was just curious if you had had that experience yet. I mean, I could definitely try it. I guess that I am still working through like doubting myself when I'm like channeling this wild shit, you know?
Yo, I highly suggest you try that. And I think also maybe we can talk after the podcast about like setting up a time where you and I can either collab or I can do a live and you can come on there and we can start doing like a question Q&A with them because I can feel the Lyran energy right now. Like they're like just because like, hey, you guys around? I don't know how much insight they would have at this very moment about it. If you can think of anything off the cuff, I also don't want to like drag your podcast out too long potentially waiting for an answer, but we could see.
Um, I would definitely be interested in going on like a live and like doing a back and forth. I know that it's like a lot for you to like bring in the Lyrans and they're like a lot of energy. So I mean, if they're around and you want to, sure, but like I'm not pressed on it right now.
See if there's anything. They just okay. The instant message I got is just that we need to love them the way that we would care about anything else. And that they the animal kingdom, at least as far as they're explaining it to me right now, they have a lot of love for us and the kind of love that we expect because we put like a transactional value on love and we look for evidence of it rather than accept that it's already there. They're like you have to understand that like the animal kingdom is made of love. It is a condition of love and you are incorporated in that and it's through like our refusal to see that connection because okay the Lyrans are basically suggesting that we're really butthurt about something and that's why we refuse to see that we're connected to the earth. It's like um we feel scorned. Apparently you're getting a channel message right now, holy shit. They're saying we feel scorned like a kid would be really pissed at his parents and that's part of what's causing this rift between us and the natural world. We feel really like we got fucked over somehow and that we're
Hmm.
owed an apology. That's I'm gonna have to dig into that later. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like we have separated ourselves. Like we chose to build houses and wear shoes and like do all the things that disconnect us from the natural world. And maybe it's like now that we try to go back into it, it's like like bumpy, like we don't exactly like we're kind of like flailing around like babies learning how to walk again, and then maybe we're just like resentful to the earth because it's not this immediate connection like we
Yes.
expect it to be.
Yeah, everything. Okay, so that's something my Syrian guides take serious issue with. Is our tech and how our tech makes it so that everything happens like now. Like it's. There's also oh my God, is his name Rodney? Is it Rodney Yang? He's a comedian, Malaysian guy. He had a Netflix special, but one of his jokes is like, "I don't want Amazon Prime. I want Amazon now, like right now. Like I want it Amazon tomorrow. Put it in my fucking hand. Amazon yesterday. Where?" And it's just that we don't know what it means to wait anymore, and like the value of waiting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, let's see. Oh wait, there was something else you said too that set something off in my brain. Is this number three? I think this is number three. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, taking a tally. This is number 3.
That's fine. I'm moving on. But okay, basically, when I asked the Lyrans about the animal kingdom, I just saw this beautiful red color, like this surge of like blood. Like they're your blood. They bleed red too. You guys are the same blood of the earth, and it would definitely be in our best interest to start viewing it that way instead of viewing it as like viewing it through the lens of guilt. They're saying they really want us to stop feeling so fucking guilty about it because guilt just weighs you down and keeps you from acting and fucking doing anything. So stop feeling so fucking guilty and take action. Like you're saying, like
Mm-hmm.
be more mindful about what you're eating. try to eat less meat if you can. If you can't, like, let's offer a blessing. Let's just become more consciously aware of the fabric of reality that connects all of us, including the animal world.
Yeah, that's beautiful because I think that my instinct is to make these really like just make a huge leap and completely change my life and like devote myself to animal activism and like paint my face crazy colors and like hide cameras and pretend that I'm a cow and then like come out and be like, I caught you motherfuckers and like burn it down and save all the cows. But I think that like wow, that is a dream of mine. I do hope to get there one day. I think that also these small, simple changes, like you said, like just being like, oh, okay, this chicken sandwich that I'm getting, it's all that I could afford today. But I honor the chicken that died for me. Boom, eat it, done. And it's just
Yep.
like I think that small, simple steps like that, they allow this space inside of us that we didn't know was there to open up and to fill with like gratitude, love, and compassion for something outside of ourselves. And it turns into something inside of ourselves. And then all of a sudden, before we know it, it's like we are able to make these big changes. We're able to become more conscious. We're able to like save an animal, which is just, it's like the small steps really do get us there. And I know that that's something like, I mean, we fucking heard that our whole lives from like, everybody's been like, one step at a time. But like really my instinct even is, like I said, to make these huge leaps and bounds, but that's not always what it's about. So
It's not, but at the same time, like where you might have like the space, you're the kind of person who might be able to take that giant leap and be okay with it, and then like somebody else will kind of like do the little steps leading up to that leap or something. I think we all kind of have a role within how the
good
energy
point.
shifts.
Yeah.
And like you energetically just feel like somebody who can fucking take it. Like you can just do it because your heart is so passionate about it, something you love. Like
Mhm.
if you're moving through an action of love, it's so much more nourishing. I feel like you're way less drained after whatever that big
Mhm.
leap is. But I think that's really awesome. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but that's, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I spend a lot of time trying to like make I guess my opinions or like the things that I would do like I guess palatable is what I'm thinking, or just like oh, anybody could do this and there's all this way. And I think like it's almost me like in a weird way like apologizing for my energy. And I think that like that's kind of what I was doing without even realizing it. Just like, oh, I would go pretend to be a cow and tear the systems down, but like you can just take little steps and then like, but I don't have to like create a plan for everybody else to find their way there. I can just do what I'm gonna do and then just leave it at that. Gosh.
100%. And apparently, like, this is some macro stuff I've been getting in my readings lately. It's like and Jessa even said this. I don't know if you saw Jessa's last energy update, that like I literally had to use a safe word at one point because it read me so hard. I have welts from that reading. But essentially it was like, stop trying to live everybody else's life for them, or stop trying to live through somebody else's model, because it's not your model. Like live your truth, not somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
your truth is like putting on like fake cow costume, or a fake cow costume, a cow costume, and
I
fucking
would go
people
in
up.
totally naked and like paint my body like a cow. Just so you know. Visual.
I'm here for it. I support this.
Thank you.
And like one spark lights a flame that turns into, I don't know, whatever that Star Wars quote is. The resistance. Yay, resistance.
I'm more of like a Lord of the Rings gal, so it's like one ring to rule them all that we must destroy. I don't know if that relates to what we're saying, but
Here, I raise a lightsaber in solidarity with you.
oh my gosh.
We'll have to geek out about nerddoms at some point.
As you're wearing your NASA shirt right now.
Oh, I know, I am. Did you know that we have this thing on Mars called Perseverance, and they had the first recorded audio from the surface of Mars in the history of humankind today, that they put, and all it was like, I don't know what I was expecting. It was literally just like it was the fucking wind. It was the wind. It sounds like wind, but I was still like, oh my god, like my nipples got hard about it. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm
What if
at.
it was just like an alien grabbed it and was like, "We see you, bitches," and then you're like so expecting that, and then it's just like a fucking. It's like, oh my god, this is it, people. This is it. This is our next home. We're going to fucking Mars.
Oh my god. Well, Elon is going. I don't know about the rest of us. Okay, I won't go there. We won't talk about Elon. No
Do
thanks.
you feel like you come from space, like your soul straight up comes from space? Is that something that you, or do you because some people are just so like, that's something I kind of wrote down. I was like, I feel like sometimes we're so, it's almost kind of like a desperate energy to like not be from Earth. We're like, I'm, and this is a lot of, I found out in the soberish community, everybody's like, where am I from? What am I like? Who am I like? And it's like they're disappointed if they're not from this like crazy galactic system that nobody's heard of before. And it's like I kind of felt like that at first, but then I was like, yo, but I'm like straight up from the Earth, and I don't know. I just feel like I'm all the things. So I'm just wondering if you really resonate with like being elsewhere, or do you feel connected to the Earth? Like, what does that look like for you?
I definitely resonate with being elsewhere, and I am trying to figure out how much of that identity with wanting to be from elsewhere is part of my own, I guess you would call it Atlantean wound at this point, like not wanting to participate in this planet because of all the fuckery and all of the horror and all the bullshit. And just, we're living in an age where reading the news just is like, it's like, oh, I haven't had enough PTSD today. Let me go on Reddit and see what the fuck's going on in the world. Um, so I think I'm both. I in my readings, the message that comes through, especially from my high guides, especially from the galactic guides, is that if you are born on Earth, you are an Earthling. You are of the Earth. You are part of the dream of Gaia. That it does not negate any other lineage that you have. It does not make you any less special. Like, we have a really low view of this planet. We have a low view of what it means to be an Earthling. It's this, we're constantly trying to escape the identity that we belong here. And that's what we have to heal. So yes, I do identify, like I've had dreams where I've just been like casually floating past Saturn or Jupiter. I have dreams where I'm in space a lot, but I don't think that means I'm also not from here, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that does make sense, because I think I've only had one dream where I was floating in space. And I've always been, I think that my whole journey into kind of where I am now in my life, I don't know why I try to stay away from the word spiritual or spiritual path. But anyways, like it started with contemplating the sky and contemplating the stars, and then in learning about space science. I'm sure there's a better word for that. Space science. That's what I'm going to call it. That's what everybody
Astronomy?
should call it. Nope. Space science. And then like from there, learning about like quantum physics and quantum theory and dark matter. And then all of that led me to like meditation and out of body experiences. And, but yeah, so it's like, I definitely feel really connected to the stars. And I feel like I guess for me, it's like, I have so much programming and conditioning that's kind of like weighing me down, that like my highest, or like my most precious parts of myself are like kind of muted at different times. Like when they're really not muted and they're out and they're loud and we're talking and connecting with one another, and I feel really aligned with like my highest parts. I'm sorry, my precious parts just sounds like I'm talking about my boobs and my sex part.
My precious.
My precious parts.
What's the dog's name in Silence of the Lambs? Precious! Precious!
I don't know.
Have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, I've seen Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, sorry. Some of the only horror movies I like. Go on.
Yeah, I can't do horror movies. But what was I gonna say? Fuck.
I cut you off. That's my fault. That is on me.
We're gonna add that to your tally.
Precious parts. Precious parts. Talking about boobs.
I guess I was just saying, like, sometimes I'm like, I think just like today, oh my God, my microphone. I think like today and yesterday, I've been feeling like I can feel like a depressive kind of energy coming in, but like I'm trying to get what I can out of these moments and these like days where I am depressed, rather than just, because my instinct is like, how do I make myself feel better? How do I make myself feel better? Go, 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 go. What can I do? Go for a walk, do this, do that. But then there's like another part of me that I'm inviting in now that's like, okay, just feel the shit. And see what comes up. But it's hard when I try to feel the things, and the things are nothing matters, you suck, you're dumb. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to look for the hidden messages here. But I think like as much time as I have spent, and it kind of blows my mind, and I think I've heard different people in the community talk about how many breakthroughs that they've had and how they've grown so much and things have totally changed for them. Their whole perception of the world has changed and their relationships and all the things. All the things are different and bigger and better and brighter. But still, even when I'm having experiences like that, I still find myself remembering how highly conditioned and programmed I am to not believe in this shit, to think that like having dragon wings that shapeshift into angel wings, that I can talk to dead people, I can communicate with animals, that we can talk about channeling higher dimensional beings, like none of it's real, all of it's dumb. Like, and then like there's and then also like that life is hard, that money is hard, that you have to have a job that you hate in order to get ahead, and like, you know, it's just like wild for me to realize like how much conditioning I still have. And like I can almost now, like as I am becoming more intuitive and sensitive, I can feel it like weighing on my body. Like it's just heavy. And I feel like the parts of me that want to like float and go out of my body and connect and grow and change and shapeshift are like weighed down by this conditioning. And it's some days it's harder than others. And it's like, I guess sometimes I just get frustrated because I'm like, oh, I thought I was past this. And that's not so much what I'm feeling now. I just get frustrated when like my channel is not as easy for me to like dive into. But I have heard, you know, people talking about rest and how important rest is and how rest kind of like realigns us, or how when we are like, we feel like we have like, quote, gone back to sleep. Those are the times that we're like integrating some of the stuff that we've been working on. And how do you view, because I know that you struggle with fibromyalgia, and so you were like forced to not do anything. Do you struggle like obviously with physically, but in your mind, are you like so frustrated when you can't do anything, or like have you found peace with that? And like, do you agree? Let me just ask you 20 questions. Do you agree that those are like necessary moments to like rest, to allow things to kind of like Tetris itself in your energetic body?
I love the image of energy tetrising itself in my body, and I think you just like help me heal from something. Like I don't know how to make, I don't know how to make like that, just having that visual, because I'm a really visual person.
I've never said that before. That literally just came out of my mouth.
I fucking love it, because like you need time, right, for to turn them and to have them line up. To answer your question, yes, I get insane sometimes when I get taken out like that. And it's hard for, I don't want to sound whiny. It's hard for me to make peace with it until after it's happened, because when I'm in the kind of pain that I get in with this stuff, I revert back to inner child. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, what the fuck? Like, what am I doing wrong? Who am I pissing off? There's something defective about me. Like, these flare-ups trigger so much of that programming you just talked about. And I do think it's an invitation, if I allow it to be, to work on those, like what those triggers were in the first place, because there's a lot of evidence that things like fibromyalgia not because of, I have my suspicions about like physically why it happens or manifests in your body, but there's a huge, tremendous emotional component and a relationship with trauma, that where all these things just get stored in your body. And at some point they need to be addressed. And sometimes they get quite loud. And I'm also the kind of person who does not know when to stop. I don't stop. I don't take days off. I don't take days off. If I'm taking a day off, I have to be hiking. I have to be I have to be doing something constantly. So like, you'd think I'd learned by now, with how many times this shit has taken me out, that like I need to be better about resting and just not doing anything. But because of my conditioning, I'm kind of zeroing in on some of this like really early childhood conditioning shit, where I had parents that were extremely controlling, and what determined whether or not I got love from them was how well I performed in school. So I was always like, my life was school. It was studying. It was getting shit done. I barely slept when I was a kid. I think I got an average of 5 hours of sleep a night when I was a kid for years, just because of the schedule I had. I live in North County, I do now, but also then lived in North County, San Diego, and my high school was in La Jolla. So it was like a 40-minute bus ride every morning. I had to get up at 5. Anyway, so I'm zeroing in on that, that need to perform, and at risk of being punished. Only like right now, there's no one to punish me. It's all in my head. And Jessica and Oscar have helped me with this a lot. Like the two of them have helped me kind of come into those core beliefs and identifying that stuff. But it's hard. And it's almost like I have to learn how to approach this programming without it exhausting me, because sometimes just looking at the trigger triggers other triggers. Like, oh, that's right, I'm pissed at my parents. Oh, that's right, my childhood was fucking insane. Oh my God, there's so, and then just like learning how to breathe into that and just let those emotions out. Like yesterday, I was in my car driving, and I do this. I'm sane. I'm sane. I'll keep saying it, but I will
Keep saying
sometimes,
it.
yeah, if I say it enough, it's true. I let myself go. I started having a mini tantrum because I was so angry about how much pain I was in. And I let myself have the tantrum, and I started like wailing. Like I was crying so hard, I was like almost shrieking. And in the back of my head, I was like, wait a minute, this is something else. Like something is being voiced right now. And I just let it go. I let her rip, so to speak. And what I kept saying, and I don't think it was me. I mean, it was me, but it was like my body was saying, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I just kept shrieking that. And this morning I woke up and my pain was gone. So there's something to be said for like learning how to access this programming and these things that sort of get in our own way with a place of softening. Like I had to soften around that feeling to let it out, because otherwise I would have just tried to control it. And no, I'm fine. I'm fucking fine. I'm always fine. So anyway, that was very long.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Yeah, there is such power in holding space for ourselves. And I think one of my biggest themes, one of my stories is that I'm always alone and I am alone. And I always felt that way as a child in my family. I have an older sister, and like, I don't know. I mean, she just kind of like in my child brain, like she was just kind of like the better daughter, you know? And so then and then like everybody in my family would always compare the two of us. So like I grew up being compared all the time. My family showed love by criticizing the fuck out of me. And so and anyways, and I just like, I just always felt like I wasn't seen or heard or noticed or any of that. And it started so young. And then it like went into school where like I was the one like token fat funny friend of the popular. Like I was always friends with like the hot popular girls and like the cool kids growing up, but I was just like almost the punching bag of the group. And I feel like I had so much more to offer, but nobody saw me. Nobody sees me. And so then like that's something like that I carry with me. And so then I find myself doing that to myself, like ignoring my body and ignoring, I think just like my body too, because I've been at war with my physical body for as long as I can remember, because I was severely bullied for being like ugly when I was growing up. Like it was mostly because I was fat, you know, or that's what the kids told me. And then it's like when you're young and one person says that you're fat and then like a whole group of people turns around and laughs and like agrees with that person, you're like, oh, I guess I'm fat and dumb and stupid. And so like, anyway, so it's like me feeling alone and like, I guess kind of feeling abandoned by people, not feeling seen has manifested in me, like not paying attention to my own body. And so, I think even with like, I was having crazy back pain, like I'm like young to have this bad back pain, but I just like looked at it energetically and I was like, I'm having this crazy pain. And then I just imagined it literally like almost like vapor leaving my body. And I could feel like a relief from that. And there have been moments where I just like sob, like I just imagine like me having a conversation with my mom and like, I had, you know, I didn't want for anything growing up. I always had food. I always had, you know, I went to summer camps and shit like that. I just wanted to be like told like you're beautiful and like you're smart and you're capable and I believe in you. And I never got any of that. And so anyways, this is like this turned into like kind of like a therapy session, but this microphone is my therapist and whoever's on the other end just like is also there. But yeah, it's just the reparenting myself is that something that I've heard Jessica and Oscar talk about on different interviews I've heard them on, and reparenting has really like saved me, like holding space for myself. And it sounds like that's what you did in the car. And it's so funny too that you mentioned that you're like wailing, like crying, like having this experience, but then you're also having like a thought while you're doing that. Because the other day I started sobbing after I watched My Octopus Teacher. Like didn't that movie touched me in a way I was not expecting. Like, it was, what got me was when he said at the end something about like, he was like, yeah, I just realized like how important and beautiful like all life is, even the smallest bits or of life. And I literally was crying for like an hour after that, sobbing. And while I was sobbing, I heard a voice in my head going, wow, you're really getting worked up about this. Like, oh, you're really crying this one. Wow, this really touched you, didn't it? I'm like, what? Who invited this voice here? I'm like, can you just let me have a fucking moment? And then I realized like, it's so wild to see that I'm like fully in the moment crying, moved. And then also there's another aspect of me noticing that I'm crying and that I'm moved.
The creepy observer.
I was like, who is that? Who is that?
It's wild. It's so cool. Like, hopefully, like, it didn't feel too invasive, but it's just kind of a testament to like when we talk about observer mind, like when people who meditate a whole lot are talking about that, that's what they're talking about. It's like you could go through your whole life and just still like detach from it. How do I put it? It's like you cease to identify with the experience. Like you still feel the experience. The experience is still real and it's still therapeutic and all that stuff. But you're not letting it like take you for a ride as much. And that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's a sign that your brain is doing good shit. Like I feel like exercising that kind of observational brain is what gets us out of a lot of trouble ultimately.
I just wanted to have a good cry, and then my brain was like, "Look at you crying right now. Look at you. You're really feeling feelings." And then it just started like talking, and I literally felt like I was almost above myself watching myself cry. And I was like, "Can I just enjoy the all the chemical release in the body while I'm just totally moved by this man falling in love with an octopus and then all of the animals for the rest of his life?" I was like, "This is why I live. I fucking live for people to tell stories about like, I don't know, I just met a little mouse one day and then I realized all life is sacred." And I'm just like, oh, like cry, like, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's kind of funny though that you mentioned a little mouse because I recently had a client. I was doing one of those like get to know your guide readings, and what came forward was this teeny tiny little mouse, the littlest mouse you've ever seen. And whenever I see a tiny guide like that, when a guide presents themselves as very small, I'm like, oh, who the fuck is this? Like, there you are, some shit is up. And truly, like this, I think they were like a kind of a an overseer or gatekeeper of this person's Akashic records and just so powerful. But I love that they chose to show themselves as like a little mouse because it brought this sort of like you get zero, how do I put it? To see something so tiny and precious and also so powerful, like such a small container can hold so much power. It can hold literally like the keys to the universe. So I don't know, that made me happy. I think mice are great. I'm a big fan of rodents in general. Used to have
Yeah.
pet rats and now I don't. I'm sad about it.
I would really like, I got a reading from Jessa a while ago and she was like, I just see like you with rats, like a bunch of rats. And I've never really been, I mean, the first like animals that I've had outside of cats and dogs were like little hamsters, but then I had a cat in the house who her name was Mitzi, Mitzzy, Mitzi. And she would like somehow get the hamsters out of the cage and then like chase them down the hallway and not eat them, but just walk around with them like in her mouth and like the tail hanging out. My mom had to be like, oh my God, don't eat the hamster. So I've always been like, little animals are just dangerous because they'll get eaten or something.
Rats can get big.
Yeah.
The rats I had were bruisers and I had them from when they were really little. Like when they were babies, I would keep them like on my shoulder and put my hood up and we'd walk outside. I lived in San Francisco at the time and they would like come with me there. Or no, was I in San Francisco at that point? I have no memory of this place. Anywho, they got to be about like the size of my hand, and they're very smart. They look like puppies. The only thing I'll say is that you have to have a strong constitution because they don't live very long, and they are so endearing so quickly that when I had to say goodbye to them, I was devastated. Like
Yeah.
I have been around for a couple of different rat deaths, like they were sick or that, and it was like I can't even talk about it. I
Oh
can't.
my gosh.
My
Yeah.
heart.
I guess the reason like I didn't even like consciously know. Do you have like 10 more minutes to
I
talk?
do. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But I was walking on a trail that I hike on all the time. Like I've probably hiked this trail 100 times since the time I've lived in Eugene. And I loved it yesterday because there was like nobody on the trail. Like it wasn't a great day to hike, but it wasn't raining and it was muddy. So anyways, I got really lucky and I could take my time going up this trail and like talk to the trees and hug the trees and like, anyways, and I was like walking up and I saw just like right in the middle of a trail was a dead mouse, like a tiny dead mouse. And I think for me, I think it's obviously really significant when I come across like any sort of animal, but to see like a dead one and it had like almost like a puncture wound, like right in the middle of its stomach, like a bird, you know what I mean? Like put its little, like its beak in there. But I just was able to have just like the sweetest moment with this mouse. Like I just grabbed like a leaf. Like, I mean, I could grab a leaf the size of my hand and the mouse would fit like perfectly in the palm. Like it was just this tiny little creature. And I just scooped it up on this leaf and I was able to just like put it off to the side. And I just said, like, I had a moment where I was like, you know, I wanted to honor the mouse's life. And then something I've like never done, because I kind of don't know what to say. I've done a couple animal funerals, but even in my own head, just for me, I'm like, what do I even like say for myself here? Like, what do I say? But I had a moment where I was like, okay, I'll honor the animal's life and I honor its death. And that was kind of the first time that I was really like conscious about honoring its death. I don't know like too much. I try to not search too much in moments like this for meaning. I try to just like let it be what it is. And I think if anything, whenever I see dead animals, it's like I can hold space for them and I can honor them in a way that they wouldn't be honored. You know, somebody might like just kick it off to the side or something, you know, it's like,
Right.
I, even when I see like dead squirrels or like on the road, like if I can, I pull over and I pick them up and I move them off to the side of the road. It's like, I just think that there's like such a disrespect. Like we already killed it. And then you want to like keep running it over. But anyways, it's just, it was like, I was able to just have this moment. And I thought about even like taking a picture of the mouse and like making a post of it. And that just felt gross to me. I was like, I don't know. But anyways, it's so like a little mouse was just dead in front of me, which actually doesn't happen that often, which I'm grateful for. But I was like, and then I could like feel the earth, like accepting the mouse, like back in. You know, it's like I like called in Gaia and I was like, just come in. And I like literally could see like energy coming up from the earth and then like starting to decompose, you know, and there's like a little spider already eating the mouse. And I was like, well, then this is now your path, you know, like you will bring life now back to the earth and you'll return to the earth. And but yeah, it was just a tiniest little mouse and it was like a bird just like punctured it. And I was like, why didn't you eat it? You just left it here. But
I feel really called out because I shouldn't be laughing. That was such a beautiful fucking story.
yeah, you started laughing in the middle of it.
Because
what's so funny about dead squirrels, Nimue?
Because I was driving with my friend in the car and I was moving. This was a couple weeks ago. And usually, like if there's roadkill, I do everything I can to not hit it for the same reasons you're talking about. And I'm laughing because there was roadkill and I couldn't get out of the way. I was driving a fucking U-Haul, so I couldn't swerve. I couldn't do anything. And I just ran over it. And like my friend was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm so sorry. I could not. I felt horrible because I was like, that's just
how do
so
you
much
swerve in a U-Haul, you know?
You can't. It was like I at least it's already dead. Like we don't need any other deaths. But I felt wretched for not being able to, because I think there is so much like reverence that could be offered with situations like that. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's why I'm laughing, because I just feel like a world-class asshole.
Yeah, I think that it is like such a statement to be, it almost feels similar, like the similar energy that Jessa talks about, like walking over somebody sleeping on the street to get into your mansion. It feels similar when you're driving down the road and you just like, you see people just like running over an animal and an animal and an animal. It's like, I know people who would see an animal crossing the road and speed up to hit it. Like I've heard people tell me that before. Like that, like I'm like, what the fuck? Like there are people out there that exist like that. And the other day I almost like I was literally walking towards a a car coming in the middle of the street to put myself in front of the car because there's a cat in the middle of the road that like wouldn't get out of the way. I was like, I'm just going to throw myself in front of this car. No big deal. And just to think that there are people that are like it's just, obviously I feel rage when I think about people like that, but I think that it just speaks to a bigger issue of like, we are so disconnected from feeling like we have any connection to this animal, like from feeling like we are like akin to these animals. And I think that like, ultimately that's what I want to do with this podcast, and with not just with this podcast, but with my life work, like my life's work. I just want to plant a seed of I guess love and compassion, as cheesy as that sounds. Maybe there's cooler words to say, but like, I'm not a cool person, I guess. But love and compassion into people's minds for animals. Like just think about it a little bit differently. Like there's a bird that for some reason, sometimes birds will like start attacking car mirrors. Have you heard of that? Like they think that they're so. Like, they think that they're seeing like another male bird that's like coming for their nest. Like, and like, I heard people at my job being like, God, what a stupid fucking bird. Like, oh God, this bird's the worst. I'm going to like kill it. And I'm like, mirrors have not been around long enough for like mirrors are confusing to animals. Like people just assume they're like, oh, well, squirrels are dumb. They walk in the middle of the road. I'm like, bitch, roads haven't been around that long. Like what the fuck? Like people are just like humans are just like, oh, animals just need to like figure it out already or we'll kill them and get them out of our way.
That's insane.
Sorry.
That's genocidal. And it's ultimately something I'm reading about actually in a plant spirit medicine book where the author is like, we really need to cool it with a superiority complex to think that we're better than things that don't communicate the same way we do, because we are fucking up with that. It's a huge problem. The only argument I would use to counter that is the time that I was in Waltham, Massachusetts, stuck in traffic for like 20 minutes because a motherfucking turkey decided to go into a four-way intersection and just stay there. And I swear to God, if a turkey could flip a middle, like flip the bird, if it could give a middle finger, this turkey didn't give a fuck. And and like the second a car would start to move, it moved the other way. Like, oh, you think you're going where? Oh, you think? And it was having the time of its life. So that is the only. Turkeys definitely have a superiority complex over humans, but it sounds earned at this point.
I was like cornered by a group of turkeys one time, like literally back up against a wall. I was trying to make myself look big, you know, big arms going like, booga, 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 like making sound. And then like they would run off. I'm like, all right, I'm good. And then I'd start to like walk away. And then the male turkey would be like, oh, bitch, you're not big anymore, are you? And then it would like run right towards me. And I was like screaming bloody murder. I was like, help me! I was so scared. But I have stopped traffic. There's so many turkeys out here in Eugene, like, and I see them cross the road and people just flying by. I've literally put my car across both lanes before to let a flock of turkeys pass, and I would do it again. And you telling me that story, I'm just like, yo, I was probably that turkey. Like, fuck yeah. Like, I love it when animals are like, bitch, this is our world. Oh, you gotta go somewhere? Oh, you're busy? Oh, you're busy today? Well, bitch, I live here, so...
Honestly, like some of my favorite like animal, I guess you would call them blooper videos, are people getting attacked by geese. You never see fear. You never see fear the way that someone is afraid of a goose, because you see them approach with that, I'm a human, I get to do whatever I want. And the goose is like, oh, do you? Do you really? And then the goose hisses, and then the human realizes, I didn't know they could do that. And then you see for a split second all those little razor sharp fucking fangs that line the bill. And then they chase you and they don't give a fuck. And it's great. It's Schadenfreude at its best. I also have been like chased by birds before. And it is, I can attest, it's scary as hell. They're sociopaths. They don't give a fuck. Like they're former dinosaurs. They do not care.
I love them so much.
Amazing.
I love it. I love when animals fuck with people. It's like what I live for. Cool. Well, this has been great, Nimue. I feel like we covered so many topics. And I love that, like, my energy when I first started this, like, my cheeks were red. I was, like, having a headache. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to... I was in, like, a pasta coma. And then I came to life about halfway through.
I've got the pasta sweats. I don't know.
Yeah, my gluten-free vegan pasta really fucked me up, you know?
Oh, my God. No, this was super awesome.
Fuck yeah. Can you tell people where to find you? I'm sure that everybody that already listens to my podcast knows you because you are well known in the soberish chats
Sober
on
les chats. They can find me at femmefataletarot.com. It's F is in Frank, EMME, F is in Frank, AETALE tarot. I really should have thought out my business name better when I came up with it, so I don't have to spell it out every time.
Frank, not spelled with a PH.
Right.
As
But yeah, Femme Fatale Tarot. I'm on all the platforms. You find me there. Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. I highly recommend the Patreon, y'all, especially now that these guides have started coming through. These Q&A sessions with them are really, really fun.
Yeah, I think I'm going to join your Patreon.
Oh, woohoo!
I love that I like got a reading from you and then like we like did a trade and then I think 2 minutes on the phone with you, I was like, oh, we're friends. Like I was like, we just like haven't talked yet. I don't know why, but I was like, we're just gonna like laugh this whole time. But your reading was like, it was really intuitive and I felt like it was like a dance that we did together, which I really liked. Like, so, like I think when I give readings, I like sit the person down. I'm like, let me talk at you for like 20 minutes and then I'll give you like 10 minutes to talk to me because I just, it can be really intense. But I love that like I felt like it was like a co-creation with you. And I don't think I told you that.
Oh, thank you. I vibed so hard off of your energy in both readings, both the reading that I did for you and when you gave the reading for my kitty and my roommate's kitty Jax. Like I would love to look at your human design stuff at some point because if you're the kind of I tend to reflect whoever's energy kind of back at them and it creates a feedback loop. And I think you and I just have really similar like clowny, silly energy and it feeds really well off of each other. So yeah, I loved doing that. And I've been trying to send people your way because since that reading, I don't know if I told you this, Jax has chilled out so much, like less
Really?
hissing. I've been able to keep my door open and the cats have just been able to look at each other. There's been way less growling. He has been nicer to me. Like he's coming up and just like petting me basically. So I really want to thank you because that changed the dynamic in the house a lot.
That's like, I feel like what I'm supposed to do is let the animals like be seen, like give them a way to be seen and be heard. And so like sometimes I worry like if I'm actually doing that. And so like I love it. If you've ever gotten a reading from me, please tell me how it's going now, because it's just like it just gives me that confidence. And that is so beautiful because it wasn't like Jax was ever like he doesn't have a bad bone in his body. He's just like it was like that change. It was like he was just change, and then you take up a lot of energetic space, and we talked about it, but like that is just I am like honored to give him an opportunity to like communicate with you, you know. So
oh, thank you so much. And let's keep doing trades because I would also just love to learn more about how you communicate with animals because I think you have something very special going on and I think we need more advocates for the animal world and what you're doing. More so now than ever. So I just want to thank you for just doing the work that you do at all. It's really sacred and it's really like powerful and important.
Thank you so much, Nimue.
You're
Wow,
welcome.
this is like a moment where I can like check on like my feminine energy, right? Like, am I good at receiving compliments? Like I am, but then a part of me is like, okay, now I gotta give you something. But then I'm like, nope, just receive it, Ashley. Just receive
Take it,
receive
bitch.
it. Yeah, just waft it towards me. Like wafting. Oh, well, this is amazing. So I'll link all of your stuff down in the show notes. I'm pointing down like the show notes exist beneath me right now. They don't. That's not real. Okay. Well, I'm so awkward at the end of this because I'm gonna like stop the recording, but you and I are gonna keep talking. So let's just say bye. Let's say bye to everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.